artificial intelligence will play a major role in shaping climate change solutions.
100% yes.
Students are more aware of climate change than ever before.
Yes, they are.
Tackling climate change takes worldwide collaboration.
Of course, yes.
Welcome to the 42nd episode of the Skills Factory. Talks and ideas about skills from Europe and beyond. As 2024 is on track to become the warmest year ever, we've invited Bareen, a woman, an activist and an educator from the Kurdistan region of Iraq, to discuss climate change and its consequences on education. Welcome, Bareen. Thanks a lot for participating in this podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
So just to get a bit of information to our listeners to understand better, Kurdistan is about the size of Switzerland or Netherlands.
Yeah.
Kurdistan has 5 million citizens, about the population of Ireland. And you are actually from the capital, right, Bareen?
I'm from the Hague city, which is approximately 2 hours away from the capital. Between mountains and more natural areas of the Kurdistan region. We are near of the border from Syria and Turkey.
So it's in the northern part of Iraq?
Yes.
How was it for you, the educational journey? Where did you start and how easy was it for you?
Well, it has its ups and downs, of course. I pursued my undergraduate and master degrees in computer science. My bachelor degree was from the Hague University, but my master's studied in Cyprus for 2 years. It was a really nice experience for me. And currently I'm doing my PhD in artificial intelligence at the Hague Polytechnic University. It was not that easy for me, to be honest, balancing between academic responsibilities, professional duties, and personal life is challenging, especially for women in our region, because we have many cultural rules, cultural expectation from a woman in career and pursuing an education life. But with family support, of course, it was a little bit easier for me than other women, maybe.
How many girls were studying with you, Bareen?
For the undergraduate, we were dominating females. So the number of females were more than the males in the classroom. But in my master degree, it was abroad. We had some female from Kurdistan region. I had some friends there. They were from different cities from Kurdistan. So I can say in terms of education, Kurdistan is leading this in the women representation. We have females enrolling in graduate programs, in undergraduate also.
And now you teach yourself, right, in the university?
Yes, I am a faculty member as well.
Do you see this balance between girls and boys in the universities?
Yes, in recent years, we have seen balance with the new government. 4 years ago, they encouraged the women empowerment. So my university, we had the first female president of the university in the city, Professor Dr. Ari. She's the first female president in the Hague to be a university president. We can see more women in administrative and decision-making roles. Our parliament was, the president of the parliament was a female. In the recent years, we can see improvement in this area. We are seeing more development, but still it's a work in progress. So I can see like more female are pursuing their education, their degrees, and being married, such as myself. I am a married woman with 2 daughters, but still having my PhD right now. So family support and community support have been changed in the past few years in this regard.
And then you mentioned that you're doing your PhD in artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Which is like the big topic these days and it's been discussed everywhere. Why you decided that you will go for artificial intelligence?
So my master also was in artificial intelligence, was a branch of AI, decision making. I love the subject, I love the topic. I loved when I was doing the master, I came across few research that decision making, how it changed everything in our lives from medical to finance to education. So this increased my interest in this subject. And also in the past year, we can see the huge development of AI and how it's the new chatbots that are coming across and they are affecting and integrating to our life. Of course, it's anyone dreams to work in this field.
In the last episode of our podcast, we spoke to a Nobel Prize in physics, Mr. Karl Weimann, and he's still working as a professor. He's teaching, and we discussed the difficulties that these chatbots and artificial intelligence is giving to the teachers. Do you feel that? Do you feel that students are using more and more ChatGPT, for instance, and that you have some difficulties in assessing their work because of that?
Yeah, not only student, everyone is using it. Researchers, faculty members, everyone, even children in schools, they are using it. It's funny to say, I'm doing a research paper on this topic, how AI can influence our higher education institutions. We are using it. The student, as you said, are using it. So instead of saying, no, you cannot use it, we must find ways to steer these students to use it correctly. They use it in their benefit, not for cheating, but for reduced time. Because sometimes when I use an AI for a problem or for a research, it really reduced my time in searching, for example. It helped me to develop my research better. So it's the question how you use it, not use it or not.
I know that you are a big activist on the climate change. So when did you start being interested in climate change and its consequences?
In my master's studies, I studied decision making. So I came across some papers, some research paper on how decision making can affect the climate change. Can you predict climate change or the climate or the weather? Also, there have been a report by NASA that issued a few years ago that said in the past 5 years, it's been the hottest July since 1880. So this was really something interesting for me. And also, as I said, we are live in a city between mountains. So as I grew up, the weather was really nice. We have the 4 weather, spring, autumn, winter, summer. Now I can see the weather is changing. It's September and we don't have rain so far. When I was younger, when I was a child, I remember in September, we start having rains. It's in autumn, but we're still in the summer weather. So this was a turning point for me.
But I wanted to stop on one point that you made about policymaking and the climate change towards policymaking, because policymaking should be working to tackle the consequences of the climate change, right?
Of course.
Why is it not happening so far? Or is it happening but not enough?
Well, I think it is happening, but it's in small steps. You need to consider the culture you are living in. To be fair to say, the government has done some steps in this regard. One of their strategic goals was the climate change, and the Prime Minister has mentioned this in Davos in the last summit. We have seen some initiative from the government in this regard, but making policies and making regulation in any area, especially in climate change, take time. And we need first to raise the awareness of this problem. We need to highlight the importance of this issue to the community. Not only the higher education community, the professor or the lecturer, no, the regular one, the farmers, everyone that has been affected about this. Duhok city is an agriculture city. We have many farms, they have been affected by this. We need to raise the awareness for these people, for the regular personnel who work in these fields.
But don't you have the feeling that the speed of a change and the speed of consequences of climate change is much higher than the speed of the decisions taken on the level of the states?
Yes, of course. We need to have faster steps, but unfortunately, because we are live in an area that affected by conflict, by war, by economic problems, so sometimes we have priorities. Sometimes people will say, no, I need to be safe in my house rather than to be worried about a climate change. There are some obstacles, of course, but people and researchers and activists are trying to do their best. But like I said, because it's a difficult area that we are living, we are being affected by everything that's happening in the neighborhood. So it's affecting us directly. So sometimes people thinking about the prioritize their needs or their problems.
Please remember to subscribe to this show on all platforms and stay tuned. Around 1.5 million Iraqis are displaced in Kurdistan and around 250,000 of Syrian refugees. So just also for our listeners to understand this context of Kurdistan as a place in between different states with military activities ongoing and with a lot of internally displaced people and refugees. It is a bigger difficulty than for you to think about climate change in those circumstances, isn't it?
Yes, of course. In 2040, when ISIS happened, more than 1 million, as you said, have been refugee in the whole city, in my city. I remember we go donate everything in our houses for the refugees, for the campus, donating food, clothes, blanket, everything we can have, water. So these refugees, these displaced personnel take resources from the city, from the government. So providing them with the necessary needs of daily basis needs, it's been very difficult for us. So concentrating on climate change because you have more urgent things happening.
How is the situation now?
The situation now is better. Many of them are already going back to their cities. The last camp has been empty last month. But still, it's a difficult situation. Anything happened in the neighboring areas also affect you in economic way, in security, in everything. That's why, because you live in a region that has many conflicts in meantime.
Also for geographical understanding, so Kurdistan is in between Syria, Turkey, and Iran. So really the Middle East.
And being a minority also has been a problem. Being a minority in a place has been a problem for years for us. Kurdistan region is part of 4 regions. We have Kurdish people in Turkey, in Syria, and Iran that maybe have not the privilege that we live in Iraq, because we kind of have our own government, our own independence currently. So this also have been an issue for the Kurdish people.
Yes, so if I'm not mistaken, in 2017, there was a vote and over 90% of voters asked to become independent in Kurdistan, right?
There was a referendum for us. I remember people coming from Europe, from US, Kurdish people, my relative came to vote in this referendum. More than 90% have voted to be independent, but unfortunately that didn't happen. And we had the consequences of that referendum as well.
What do you mean by consequences?
The airport were closed for a few months after the independence. We have some economic challenges after that. Basically, the people said we want our independence, but nothing happened.
In all this complexity, you work a lot on raising that awareness that you mentioned before about climate change. So the question here is how the education system manages to cope with this task.
So there have been few initiatives in the higher education institutions for this subject, but to be honest, it's not that powerful yet, but we are trying to do our best. We are trying to have collaboration internationally. One of the things that we did, opening departments that relative to this issue, such as food production department or agriculture department, that we integrate with the curricula the importance of climate change. We try to raise the awareness to our students, the newly enrolled students of our universities.
What is the biggest challenge of raising this awareness about climate change?
For the students who don't have idea about climate change, or they didn't think about it before. So convincing them that this is also an important issue, such as having clean water or good quality of products, making them believe that, yes, this is affecting me, maybe this will affect my children and the next generation. Sometimes this can be challenging.
In November this year, that will be the largest annual event on climate change, COP29, and will take place in Baku, Azerbaijan. How do you think these global conferences contribute to the fight against the consequences of the climate change?
Global conferences such as the one you mentioned play a critical role in building international agreement on climate actions. These events create platform for countries, for scientists, for organizations to share their best practices in policy making and in policy solution and in making decision in this regard. These kind of conferences have a huge impact on raising the awareness of this problem. But we need more of these conferences and more to be reached by the regular people, not only the scientists, not only the researchers, not only the one who already know this is a problem. This is also a point to be considered.
If you would have a magic wand and you could instantly change one thing in terms of raising awareness and about climate change, or in terms of higher education in Kurdistan region, what would that be?
That's a difficult question. I can think about many things to happen with that magical wand, but I think access to clean water will be my first priority, because water is one of the most important issues in Kurdistan region and globally, actually. Access to clean water and access to secure water is very important, especially for women, because women have been providing water since ages for their families. And maybe providing the water has been changed in different ways now, but it affects how you live. And now we are seeing reports of accessing clean water. It's been difficult year by year in different regions, globally also. So I think this is a very important issue we need to be focused in.
So secure clean water. But actually, what you just mentioned, do you think women are more vulnerable to the climate change consequences in Kurdistan than men?
Not only in Kurdistan, maybe in other regions as well, especially in rural regions. In Kurdistan and other countries, women and children have been affected by this problem.
And do you think women can play a major role in tackling the consequences?
Of course, because by nature, women are decision makers. I believe that if they have the opportunity, they can find some solution, some kind of solution, because they are dealing with the everyday life, everyday problem with their families, where they can provide the basic needs of their families. So of course they can. I'm not saying the men cannot, but women also can.
Thanks a lot for participating in this conversation, Bareen Haval. It was a really positive episode with a lot of positive messages, actually. It was a great pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
And thanks to all of you, our listeners, and stay tuned as there's much more to come. Goodbye.